Good evening and welcome to our Facilities Committee meeting tonight, August the 25th, 2021. At this time, we will pause for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome to our Facilities Committee meeting. This meeting is now called to order. This meeting is held in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The news media has been notified and a copy of the agenda has been made available to the public. This meeting is open to the public, but with limited first-come, first-served seating due to COVID-19. All persons wishing to attend the meeting by virtual means may do so via YouTube, Sumter School District, board meetings, and Sumter School District Facebook page. The mission of Sumter School District is to equip students to be responsible, successful, and productive citizens in a global society. Sumter School District vision. The vision, Sumter School District develops and cultivates competitive students who embrace diversity, act responsibly, and contribute positively to society. Tonight in our meeting, we have myself, Sean T. Reagan, Chairman of the Facilities Committee. We have Dr. J. Frank Baker, Mr. Matthew McLeod, and we have Ms. Robin D. Mills. Also, we have our Superintendent, Dr. Penelope Martin Knox, and our Executive Director of Operations, Mr. Samuel Myers. Also, we have Ms. Amy Hanson, our Administrative Manager, and we also have Ms. Jennifer Miller, our CFO, who's joining us tonight as well. We will follow the agenda as outlined for our committee meeting tonight, and we're now down to Category 2, and we'll start with 2.1. And that is the approval of the agenda. With no objections, the consent approval of the approval of the agenda will stand approved. Hearing no objections, the agenda stands approved. Section 3.1, approval of minutes. At this time, with no objections, we will have the consent approval of the previous Facilities Committee meeting, March the 3rd, 2021. Any objections? Hearing none, the consent agenda stands approved. We're now down to item number 4.1. And we're going to get an update tonight on the train update, and I'm going to go ahead and yield to our superintendent or Mr. Myers at this time to give us the update.
So good evening, Chairman of the Facilities Committee, Reagan, Dr. Baker, Mr. McLeod, and Ms. Mills. This evening, Ms. Jennifer Miller and Mr. Myers will provide us with an update as it pertains to the train project. Mr. Myers and Ms. Miller, if you will, please.
Yes, good evening, Chairman Reagan, Facility Committee members, and Superintendent Dr. Martin Knox. The Train Energy Program Energy Savings Project is underway. As you may recall, there are 4 types of work being done with this project. First is HVAC, then lighting, envelope, and transformers. Our internal team meets with train representatives on a weekly basis to discuss the project and resolve any issues that may arise. Our executive team has worked collaboratively with our principals with the scheduling for this project. Mobilization at various schools began in June and will continue throughout the project. Subcontractors started working a second shift on August 9th, 2021 to expedite the project and to avoid interruptions to the students. The contractors are starting with 3 high schools first, and then will proceed to the additional schools in a cluster format. And next, Mr. Myers will provide information about the various categories of work being performed.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Good evening, Chairman Reagan, Facility Committee members, and Dr. Martin Knox. We're excited about the project that's taking place at Crestwood High School initially, and moving on to Lakewood. With our HVAC process, we're currently working with that process at Crestwood High School. The gym is nearing completion. Then they will move to other areas of the building after they've completed the gym. A complete walkthrough of Lakewood High School was performed on August 25th, 2021, to prioritize which areas to focus on for the HVAC upgrades. As we moved on to the next section of lighting, a walkthrough inspection of all lighting fixtures took place across the district, and lighting works that started on 7/27/21, with night shifts coming into place. As we moved on to envelopes, as we know, the envelopes themselves are designed to seal up those openings where there are weak or worn areas, and it helps to facilitate climate control. They then move on to making sure that the transformers are up to date. Transformers ensure that they're bringing sufficient power to the school or the facility. That's just a brief recap of the training process, and as I indicated and Ms. Miller stated as well, we are really pleased with the work that's being done by training, and those weekly meetings have helped us to stay in connection with the way that they're moving.
We'll take questions at this time. Ms.
Yes.
Mills?
Mr. Myers, what, on the envelope projects that they're doing, can you describe some of those that they're actually doing? Are they doing ceiling, doors, windows? Describe some of those, please.
One of the major pieces would be the windows, as they see that there may be cracks or spaces around the windows at our various schools. Doors, windows, there are ceiling areas that they're taking a look at. There are louvers that may be removed or replaced. But those are just some of the areas that they're addressing, because once you begin to lose heat and air during those areas, it causes a problem with the efficiency of the operation of the units that are within the building. So those are just some of the areas where they will be targeted.
And then second to that, on the HVAC systems, where they have completely upgraded those HVAC systems, is the key there to match the actual size of the units so that you don't over-design, or is it a change of unit completely style?
They're changing all of the units for more that are more efficient. And as you can take a look, if you're in the building, you can tell that those units are running more efficiently and at a higher rate and higher speed than some of the others were. So that in itself is what they are zeroing in on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions at this time? Mr. Myers, can you tell us when was the start date for training, when they started the work within the schools?
Train started their process, the initial process back in June, but they had been preparing prior to that.
Okay.
Do you have the original date where we had the kickoff meeting that was here in the boardroom? When was that first meeting that we had everyone come together with Train? While he's looking for that, one of the things that I thought was most important at that time is to make sure that principals were aware of the work that was going to take place in the scope, so that if it did carry into the start of the school year, which it did, it would minimize instruction. Didn't want it to be an aha moment for our principals, so we did a kickoff meeting here in the district office. What was that date, Mr. Meyer? Or Ms. Miller? Either of you?
I'm checking my calendar right now. I know we have a calendar.
So we had a meeting that everyone came
It was
together.
on June 9th, Wednesday, June 9th at 10 a.m.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. So we had so that we could set the stage, set the expectations, and then again discuss the scope of work that was going to take place. And of course, making sure that there was a project person identified for training, that he was present as well. And that's one of the individuals that continues to stay in constant communication with our principals as this work is progressing and moving forward.
And either one of you, so what, on that note, the kickoff was in June. When do you expect all the work to be completed again? I know we had the briefing, but I just can't recall off the top of my head.
Did you all hear the question?
I didn't hear, it wasn't clear.
Sure. What is the expected completion date of all of the work, from the envelopes to the HVAC units? What's the expected conclusion date? Jennifer, do you have that one?
I don't have the exact date. What we have is a matrix from Train where they're indicated which schools are having what work done, and do not have an exact date of completion. I know it's going to take a good year to do this. I know the HVAC work is a big piece of that for the 2 high schools. The other work, I don't have an end date for that.
And what we can also do, and when this was placed on the agenda, we did not know that the train rep would not be available. But we wanted to give you the most up-to-date information that we had, and we will invite them to come in to talk to the whole board as well.
And just a comment, it would be interesting, and maybe for a future update, after they complete one, for everything they're gonna do, say for Sumter High or one of the other high schools, is to, after that's complete, do a baseline of, I'm assuming you guys pay your bills, your electric bills monthly? It'd be interesting to start doing a comparison to actually see the savings.
Yes, ma'am. And actually, we will need to have that information just as part of the project. They have to do that, provide that.
Well, they calculate, you have to be careful because they
Right.
calculate savings from manufacturing predicted
Right.
savings. And what we had to do in the government is to actually look at the kilowatt difference. So, you know, what you actually, and it's difficult too, because if you mix other projects in at the same time, then you can't get a true comparison of what the savings were. So, but
And also with rising utility costs, which we faced this year,
Yes.
we had a significant increase in our utility costs, so that's gonna
So you have to-
offset some of that savings.
yeah. So if that remained baseline, say it didn't increase, what would be the,
Right.
and really you can do it by kilowatt usage, so.
All right, any other questions at this time? All right. We will now move to 4.2, District Operations Division Update, and I'll yield again.
Sure.
And to the superintendent.
So at this time, I've asked Mr. Myers to give an overview of where we are in terms of the work that's taking place in the daily operations of our school district, including us reopening in the midst of the continuance of a pandemic, trying to meet the needs of our students. And so, Mr. Myers, would you like to go ahead and begin to share the updates as it pertains to operations?
Okay, thank you. One of the most important pieces of the operation of the work that's being done, we first have to make sure that we're providing are having self-care with our members of our various teams. Our first initiative is to ensure that our teams are taking care of themselves and having all of the different kinds of things that they need to be protected while they're working in the schools, outside, whether they're in the sun, on top of a roof, or wherever they may be. And we have to ensure that they have what they need and that they are remaining hydrated and doing what they need to do to care for themselves if they're working diligently daily. One of our most important pieces being the distribution of PPEs. PPEs have been made available to all of our schools and delivered to all of our schools. That includes our masks. At our elementary schools, we delivered 2,000 children-sized masks. We also delivered 2,000 adult masks. Additionally, each middle school and high school received 2,000 adult-sized masks. We wanted to ensure that all of the schools had an opportunity to receive those, and we made those available. And they're available upon request from students and staff. We also delivered sanitizing wipes, hand sanitizers, gloves, disinfectant spray, and all of those were sent to classroom teachers as a packet itself. Additional supplies are being sent to our office staff to ensure that they have what they need in order to perform each and every day. Additionally, our touchless water fountains have been delivered to our schools, and our plumbers are working to attach those units to our water fountains to ensure that our students are receiving fresh water without having to touch anything. And those units were installed previously, and we sent additional ones to add on to those water fountains. Also,
may I jump in here?
Sure.
May I jump in here? And one of the things with the touchless, I want to use this as a reminder for our parents that while we have the touchless water fountains, our students can bring their own personal containers to school so that they can fill them. We're not using the regular water fountains where a child can just lean over the water fountain and to hydrate themselves. But if we're offering these touchless water fountains, if you will, for our children to fill up the containers. And what I've noticed, and even in talking with the principals, many of our kids are not bringing their containers in, so they still can't access the water as available. So I would just use this as an opportunity to let our parents know that if they have their own containers that they'd like to bring to school, they're more than welcome to do so, and they have the resources to fill up those containers as much as they need to during the school day. I'm sorry, Mr. Myers, I just needed to put that touchless piece in there.
That's okay. Thank you so much. In addition, we provided to all of our schools hand sanitizers, the touchless hand sanitizers. We've made those available. We just received our additional supply, and those units began to go out today, and they will be delivered between today and Friday. And so all schools will be receiving additional the touchless hand sanitizers. So we want to ensure that our schools are receiving those items and using them effectively. One of our most important items that we've delivered to the schools as the principals have made their requests have been desk shields. There are some heavyweight desk shields that we ensure that our middle schools and high schools are receiving. And our elementary schools are making a request for a lighter weighted shield. We wanted to ensure that our younger students were receiving those shields that would not cause them any difficulties. And all of our schools have those items, and each time they make their request, we fulfill those requests, and our warehouse team will deliver those to all of those various sites.
And may I
In
add?
addition, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. May I also add, even with the desk shields and the hand sanitizer and all those other items, we put those things in place last year in the midst of the pandemic. We never took them away. So we still stayed on guard, if you will, and so we didn't have to reissue everything that had been issued. So we maintained the protocol and the procedures that we implemented last year when we began to transition our children back to school. What has happened over the time with the utilization of the desk shields, many of them have cracked, they've hit the floor because they're very heavy. If they hit the floor and crack, we have to replace them. And then again, I said this previously, in talking to the elementary school principals, it was an aha moment for us because we never took it into consideration, and that's why it's most important that we collaborate when doing this. There was this fear of the use of the heavy-duty death shields, if you will, because the potential for them to fall on a child. While it hasn't happened, we don't want it to happen. So the shields, I was out of school today, and I saw the delivery of the cardboard, if you will, death shields at one of the elementary schools. And so they're going to do away with the heavier shields for the smaller kids and use those flexible, lighter shields, if you will, for our children. So I just wanted to add that piece in there too, Mr. Myers, sir.
Okay, as we're moving right along with our HVAC units, we mentioned a train that's been working at Crestwood High School, and we'll be moving on to Lakewood, and we have been addressing some issues at Sumter High School as well as some of our other schools. Our maintenance techs, our HVAC techs have been working diligently to keep those units working efficiently, and sometimes we have to require parts to ensure that they are working efficiently, and we have been keeping a very close watch on all of those. In addition, we are continuing with our MERV filters, and not only are we writing the dates changed on the front of the filters, we have designed a filter checklist so that our building service workers can record the dates and the rooms that they've made those changes in per month. And that information is forwarded on to us so that we can keep a running record, so we'll be better prepared to look at those and making sure all of that is being done efficiently. One of our most important pieces is to take care of the exterior part of our building. We've begun to pressure wash some of our buildings. We've got a running rotation where we started with our alternative school, Sassy, and we'll be moving on to High Hills next. And we've got a running list of schools that we have in a rotation, and once we've completed that rotation, we will go to the next level of schools. So we want to make sure that we can keep the exterior part of our buildings looking presentable each and every day. In addition to the exterior of the building, we move on to our grounds. Our grounds workers have been making sure that they have a rotation schedule for our schools, and they want to make sure they have those schools that do not have grounds workers assigned to their schools in that rotation. We have received numerous supportive pieces from principals and teachers and other staff members about the fine job that they're doing, and we've just added a couple of more persons to that team, and they work as a team, and they've been doing an exceptional job. And if you see the work at some of our schools, they're to be commended for the fine job that they're doing. Kudos to our grounds teams. That also goes along with our athletic grounds team. They've been working to keep our athletic fields working and cut the way that it needs to be, and giving it a very good look so that we can continue to be proud of those areas. When we move to our cameras, adjustments have been made with the cameras at Sumter High School. There are some adjusting some of the cameras that they have. At Crestwood High School, we've installed 126 cameras, and the balance of those will be completed very shortly. They're working to complete the installation of those remaining cameras in order to move on to Lakewood High School, which is next in that rotation. And once they complete Lakewood, they'll be moving on to R.E. Davis. So we're pleased with the way that that's going, and we want to ensure that we're keeping those cameras up and working in those schools, and we'll be keeping you abreast of that as well. Two other most important areas within operation: food service and transportation. We're experiencing some low numbers, or some high numbers, if you will, of shortages. Food service has 25 vacancies. Transportation has right around 25 vacancies. They're experiencing those significant shortages with staff, and some of those are resignations because of health issues, some with retirement, some are returning back to school, some are changing careers, and they're leaving because they're looking for an increase in pay at some of the other businesses that are local and in some of our surrounding areas. So that's a basic recap of some of the things that are happening with operations. We'll entertain any questions at this time.
And so may I add, while there are shortages in several of our areas trying to meet the needs of our children, we are always actively recruiting. So if anybody knows of individuals who would love to join Sumter School District in this work, we are always accepting applications. When we hire 2 or 3, we may lose 2 or 3. And as Mr. Myers said, when we do exit interviews with those individuals for the categories that he's mentioned, those are the varying reasons for the why. In communicating with my colleagues in other districts, I guess we're now fighting for the same people because they're experiencing the same types of shortages as well. And so again, if there's anybody who's watching, or even if you all know someone who is seeking employment or additional employment, just have them contact our Department of Human Resources. Tiffany McCants-Walters is our recruiter for the district. She is sitting back waiting to receive people who want to join our team. We will continue to make adjustments during this time just to make sure we're able to offer services to our children, but we're continuing to move forward during these times of this pandemic.
All right, at this time, we'll entertain any questions from the committee pertaining to the Operation Division update. Okay. I don't really have a question, but I guess I'm seeking clarification. I know that we mentioned that training is working on the HVAC systems is one of their responsibilities, and then we have, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, funding from the ESSER funds that is allotted to HVAC. I think I saw that at our last meeting. So I'm just guessing that we have already assessed as a district what those funds were, or which school those were catered to, and so if you can explain.
Ms. Miller, would you talk about the pie chart that we have in terms of the facilities? Because there's a multitude of things that are in the funds from ESSER that are allocated for HVAC and carpeting and some other things. Ms. Miller, are you prepared and able to do that?
Yes, ma'am. The ESSER 2 budget had $5.9 million budgeted for HVAC work, and that was for the projects that are ongoing right now with Train for Lakewood and Crestwood High School. So that will cover those 2 locations. And then we have approximately $6 million budgeted in ESSER 3. We are still prioritizing which schools that those would go to, but it'll be the same format that we did with the other 2 high schools. We have a spreadsheet where we are tracking the oldest units and the most worn out units, and we are prioritizing that way.
Okay.
Well, actually, so the ESPC contract is funded differently. I guess I heard the question being, did I hear you correctly that you're using ESSER funds to fund the ESPC contract?
It's not funding the contract. The contract is twofold. There is a loan for the energy savings contract, and then there is ESSER funding that is paying for the HVAC equipment that is used in the contract for the energy savings program. Did that answer the question?
Yes and no. I guess yours is structured a little differently because usually the upfront cost is absorbed by the contractor, unless there's something in there that the upfront capital comes from us. So I guess in our contract, the upfront capital cost for like new HVAC came from us.
We are billed monthly from Train, and so we've made 2 payments so far. And so we are billed monthly, so we're not covering the cost entirely upfront. It is being, as work is progressing, a percentage of completion, that is how we're being charged. And we have our loan funding that is held in an escrow account, and we draw down those funds to cover the portion of the project that is not paid with ESSER funds, and then we submit a claim for ESSER reimbursement after we pay out of our regular funds for the HVAC portion of the project.
So it's like a split payment?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good news, that we could actually use the ESSER funds for that.
Yes.
That's really good news.
Absolutely.
Any other questions at this time? Hearing none, thank you.
I have one update, if it's okay. I did reach out to Train while we were talking, and they're projecting that probably will be completed the end of summer or early fall next year for the Train project.
Thank you.
Subject to any delays, obviously, if we have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Myers, thank you, Ms. Miller, and
Thank you.
thank you, Dr. Knox. All right, we're now down to item number 5.1, site visits. And I can just briefly share on behalf of the committee that the facilities committee toured 2 of our schools here in the district as a start of something that this committee will eventually do in the future. And the plans for this committee is to take on as many schools as we possibly can and tour them, and just to walk the buildings with administration to see the things that are going on inside of the facilities within the district. And with that, we can, as a committee, have conversations, and not only that, we can actually, I guess, provide feedback to administration on behalf of this committee and our subcommittee by offering some sort of advice, okay? And so the 2 schools that we were able to tour was the Sumter Academy of Support and Intervention, as well as the R.E. Davis College Preparatory Academy, okay? All right. We're now at item number 5.2. And it says recommendations. So at this time, I will ask any of the committee members at this time if you have any recommendations that we can take back to the full board from this meeting. We can do so at this time and notate it. So if you do, then you can speak at this time.
I think maybe we should map out in the future, if we're going to do these site visits, how we're going to, if items are brought up for action, to take those items back to the board, and maybe get a status update. I know when we walked through those 2 schools, a lot of stuff was already being planned to be done in the power washing and some of the other stuff we saw, which was great news. But then other things, if we saw something like the Omni project or something like that, that we would get an update. I mean, just as if we're gonna tour them, there should be an outcome of, it's either green, the whole school's green, ready to go, and maybe we should, establish something like that. We think, all is good, all is fair, or, there's stuff that's not good, and those we take for action items. It's just a suggestion. So we have a process, more of a process of when we do these site tours.
Thank you for that. That's a good suggestion.
And not necessarily to go back, but just a recommendation, when we are scheduling our future visits, if we could, schedule a group in particular areas, like Chestnut and Crestwood together, Lakewood, Furman, and Ocala, and Manchester together, groups so that we can get there quickly and then hit 3 or 4 schools at one time. I think that'd be beneficial.
Thank you for that recommendation. And a good one. Okay. Any other recommendations at this time from the committee members? Okay. Hearing none, we will now move to item number 6, and it looks like it's the close of the meeting. And so, real briefly, thank you guys for attending the meeting tonight, all committee members and the administrative staff. Thank you so kindly, and then thank you to our community who viewed us tonight for our facilities committee meeting. At this time, we will move to item 6.2, and it says adjournment. And so at this time, this meeting is now adjourned.